All right, Parashat Hashavua, Parashat Shemini. Today we're going to deal mainly with aspects from the Zohar on this parasha, and we'll try to apply it to our lives. We know that the whole entire Bria, the whole entire creation, is designed and built in a array of what we call vessels and lights. The vessels are the receptacle in which the divine light comes in, and then we get things going. So we could say that in a way, us, are just a vessel, and in a way there's actually only one light, and that's the light of God. The light, Or Hashem, that's the light that comes down. And the whole entire purpose of our lives is to really attach ourselves to God, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And as much as the light would come in and fill the vessels, so is our lives should be filled with the light of Hashem. And that's what we should be, we should strive for. Our job along the line is really to prepare those vessels in the most perfect way to be able to receive the light until the appropriate day, which the Navi in Zechariah 14 verse 9 says, Bayom ha'u yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad. His name will be one, and so on and so forth, and we use the analogy that Hashem is the light, and His name represents the kli, and therefore everything is going to be in perfect harmony and unity, which is going to be a tremendous event that, in a way, will be able to execute God's will without any distortion. And it seems as if this whole entire parasha is evolving around this concept of perfection and the sense of purpose in everything that we do. Now, of course, how do we do all these things? Maybe we could be able to offer some kind of a glimpse. So in Sefer Tehillim, David HaMelech says, King David says, Ki b'mitzvotecha ha'emanti. B'mitzvotecha ha'emanti. I mean, it seems, by the way, that's in Psalms
52?
119?
Very nice. Verse?
I don't know that.
36.
66. It says, B'mitzvotecha ha'emanti, I would believe in your mitzvot. I mean, it seems a little peculiar. B'mitzvotecha ha'emanti, I would believe in your mitzvot. It should say, B'mitzvotecha asiti, or b'toratcha ha'emanti, or b'cha ha'emanti. What does it mean, B'mitzvotecha ha'emanti? It just doesn't make sense in terms of this, doesn't make sense. So the Mekubalim tells us something that it's very, very mind-boggling, and maybe at the beginning, the first glimpse, it seems a little bit hard to actually accept. But they say that we need to understand and comprehend that the mitzvot are the limbs of the Torah. And these are the details, right? These are the vessels or the limbs of emunah, of belief itself. That's why a person could not prove that he is a believing person, or by the fact that he's just doing the mitzvot. That doesn't mean that if you're doing the mitzvot, it doesn't mean you have emunah. He might have the general emunah, right? But in the details, sometimes he can do just the opposite of what needed to be done. Just the opposite. And the Torah, in many places, and Chachamim, in many places, had warned us on that. Even the Navi says, right? Regarding the Torah, tzadikim yilchu ba, v'reshaim yichashlu ba. It's the same Torah. How is it possible that you are doing the same Torah right? And if you're a righteous person, you're going to glorify Hashem's name, and that's the path in which you're going to go. And if you're a wicked person, you're going to stumble. How is this possible? I mean, everybody always tells us, "Mitoch shelo lishma, ba lishma." These are very nice things, but what is it? What do you do with what it tells us? What the Navi tells us? What do you do with a statement of Chazal that says, "Lo'olam lo yaseh ha'adam b'Torah kardom lachpor ba"? Never use the Torah as a vehicle to serve your own purposes. I mean, so much that the Zohar in many places warned us not to use the Torah to glorify yourself. The Torah was meant to glorify Hashem. So if you're doing it for yourself, you're like, chas v'shalom, like, I hate to say that, but maybe even moel b'kodesh. It's something that it's, so difficult for us. Especially since we were all exposed to Kiruv and we all like having this get together, it's all good kind of a thing, Torah is not something to play around with. So the fact that you're doing the mitzvot doesn't mean that you really, what we call Baal Emunah. You're doing stuff, you're doing the mitzvot, and so on and so on, but it doesn't mean like this. And you need the mitzvot, which actually build this emunah, and on top of that, you need the inside, the pnimiyut of the things. That's why when you read, people want to read Kabbalah because they want to know secrets, mainly to glorify themselves, call themselves a mekubal. So that's not a mekubal, it's a mebulbal, mekabel, it's not a mekubal. To learn Kabbalah, to read what the Ari says, when you start understanding what he's saying regarding the mitzvot, when he has a sefer, Ta'amei mitzvot, sometimes you feel like you were just got zapped in your head. Like everything opens up, like somebody loaded a mega program into your head and things look completely different from this point on. But we need those mitzvot. And in order to do the mitzvot, we need, of course, certain things. We'll talk to it a little bit later. And the mitzvot are the details which build the whole entire building that it's called emunah. Now pay attention to what we do, right? ללמוד וללמד, לשמור, לעשות ולקיים. So therefore, קיום המצוות, doing the mitzvah, is really dependent completely on you learning it. My neighbor told me a very nice word. I forgot the name of the Rav. He was a Rav at the time, a big yeshiva in Bensonhurst. Years ago, talking like 50s. This rabbi came to him and he said to him, "Listen, I want to retire." So the Rosh Yeshiva told him, "You can't." So he said to him, "Why?" So he said, "Because the order of things is lilmod ulelamed. So once you start, you move to the next stage, you can't go back to just lilmod. Now you have to continue to be melamed." So that's the kiyum of the mitzvot. Hey guys, don't look at me. But that's the kiyum of mitzvot. That's the inyan of kiyum. For example, let's talk about something that you want to construct, something that you want to build. What will be the most simple thing for you to build? A table. A table will be a very small thing. So you have the makshava, you have the thought. But then when you start saying, okay, how am I going to build a table? So you need to know what's the purpose of the table. Is it going to be a dining room table? Is it going to be a conference room table? A living room table? What kind of table would that be? And based on that, you have to pick up the appropriate materials and wood. But it's not enough, because before you're going to pick the materials and the wood, you have to have a plan. And all of a sudden, believe me, doing carpentry job is really amazing. It's like you learn. And that, I think, on a side note, I think that's something that we lost together with all this, the things that we lost together with that, the fact that we don't do anything ourselves anymore, that we buy everything built, we lost the ability to pay attention to details and to acknowledge the importance of details and to how to organize things in terms of that. Our minds are very sporadic now. We can't really put together things. And that's why, people look the way they look, or things look the way they look. You want to get everything ready. Ask a guy to put a table together. Say, just not the problem. I'll take 2x4s. I say, good luck. Let's see you put a table like this together. I guarantee you build a table with 2x4s, it's going to be shaken. It's not going to move. Somebody that knows is going to think about, one second, I need to put it like this, I need to put it like this, and I'm going to put support here. There's movement this way, there's movement this way, and so on and so forth. You have to think about those things. How you're going to build a table. So the more details you have in the planning segment of that, the better the table will be. You kind of need to vision the table before, when the makshava, when the thought came about the fact that you need the table, you already had the picture in your mind. That's exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. The Havdil, of course. That's exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did. So in order for us to understand, and so on and so forth, when we are trying to build a spiritual building or a spiritual structure, it is so more important and crucial to really be able to go down to the details of things and not to be like, okay, just find me a way and let me just click it like this. Now, of course, you see, why is it important? And it is an absolute necessity to sit down and learn Torah. Because you don't know what's going to happen to you once you're going to learn the Diyukei Mitzvot. When you sit down and you're finding the source in the Gemara, and then you find the source in, you read the Bet Yosef. You can't move without the Bet Yosef. You can't. And then you see how he derived the halacha from the Bet Yosef to the Shulchan Aruch. And then you see what the Ramah is saying. And then you look at the, Rav Moshe. You look at the Rav Belsky. You read Rav Avadia. You look at all, and all of a sudden, a small thing that, everybody taught you since you were young to put tefillin on, that feeling will already take a different, the action of just tying your feeling will be different. The way you put tzitzit is or your talit is going to be different. You're not just doing it like a robot. You're actually going to think, and you're going to, if I'm going to ask you why you're doing that, you're going to tell me, I do it like this because I don't want to be a hefsek, I don't want to be over l'asiyatam, give me a teretz for here, a teretz for that. Doesn't mean that I have to agree with it, but you need to learn it, you need to do it. Otherwise, it's just like a really retarded thing to do, put a sheet on your head, and then you think you're holy. That's why you have to learn the whole chain of events, really from the Chumash all the way to the Mishnah, to the Gemara, and so on and so forth, until you know what to do without a question. Without a question. And that's why we say, En Am Haaretz Chasid. A person who is Am Haaretz could not be mitchased, could not get closer to Ribono Shalom. Can't. You need to learn. Now tell me, what's the big deal? He puts a tefillin and he puts a tefillin. It's completely different. Completely different. And it's not just tefillin, it's everything that you do in your life. That's why the Shulchan Aruch covers every aspect of your lives, of your life. So if you don't learn, you're just an empty vessel. There's nothing in it. Not that it's just empty, you're not able to hold any light that will come inside to really get you going and to be able to function appropriately. It will be almost like a closed or like a chunk of glass that you think it's a vase, but it's not. It's closed. It cannot hold anything. And for those people who learn and never do chazara, it's like a vessel with holes. You pour the bracha and then it comes out. You pour the bracha and then it comes out. And so on and so forth. That's why learning is so important to the being of a Jew. And again, who is the one who usually complains about the fact that people learn? It's that we learn. Who is it? Either Amei Aratzot or secular Jews. But not because, yes, it becomes vicious, but it really becomes of pure ignorance of not knowing the importance of learning. You can't come and tell me that you and God have a deal. Me and him, we talk. He knows me. That doesn't work like that. That might be a fool. By you saying that means that you are complete ignorant because you don't understand what it is. Because if a person that learns will understand how important it is, they would never say that. And goes to everything in our lives. That's why Torah has to be your number one priority in how you do things. That all your life should be around Torah. Every aspect of your life has to be covered. Here, take some. Has to be covered with Torah. Everything. Otherwise, you're missing spiritual limbs. Now, and it says in Kohelet is what we say, Sam, in Kohelet in English?
Ecclesiastes.
Yes, that's right. What? Ecclesiastics, very nice. So in Kohelet, chapter 7, verse 14.
I never got it once.
That's good. Keeps you on your toes. Now you have to come here more often. It says, Ze lumat ze asa Elokim. This one against, parallel to the other. So the Zohar says, Rabbi Shimon says, Klal hakolu. That's a major rule in Judaism. Ki kmo sheyesh 10 sfirot ha'emunah lemala. As much as we have the 10 sfirot that we know, Keter, Binah, and so on and so forth, kach yesh 10 sfirot tmeim lemata. So above there's the holy 10 sfirot, but to make things equal and fair, there is the lower 10 sfirot of tumah, of impurity. There's holiness and impurity. It has to be like that. Now pay attention to what the Zohar is saying. It's mind-boggling. It says, וכל מה שיש בארץ מהם אחוזים מהצד הזה, ומהם אחוזים בצד האחר. Everything that is in this world, the same thing. That some that come from the holy side, and some that come from the impure side. And it says, והתיר לנו הכתוב, and the pasuk allowed us, אותם בעלי חיים הנאחזים בצד 10 ספירות הקדושה. Comes the Torah and allowed us specifically to eat only those animals that come from the holy side, not from the impure side. ואסר לנו כל בעלי החיים הנאחזים בצד 10 ספירות הטומאה. And that's, if you want to look at the Zohar in Parashat Shemini, over there you can look into it. Now, in everything in the world has a shorish, has a root, because if it doesn't have a root, we have to have that spiritual root, because that's how you get your sustenance, your nutrients, and from the spiritual root. Everything has a root. Everything. Of course, the root could be from this side or could be from the other side. The trick is to know what the root is, to be able to identify. To know, there's also Yerushalmi here, since you like Yerushalmi. To know what's the root and to act appropriately. So say the Mekubalim that there are kosher food and there is non-kosher food. The kosher food has the good nature to them because it comes from the pure side, the good side. And they have the good qualities and so on and so forth, and there is a hamshacha, there is a continuation of the light to bring, by eating them, the light to this world in the appropriate manner. Okay? However, when we're talking about the chayot of the merkava, so they have those abilities. And however, the chayot of the tum'ah, what we call ma'achalot asurot, the forbidden food, the root is in the merkava of tum'ah. Comes from the other side. And the situation of where where you go, what's gonna be with you, boy? Tell me. Is it yes or no, right? What's gonna be, boy? Right? Well, let me sleep on it, baby. So let me tell you that. Whatever you'll become, that's what the Rambam says. You are not predetermined of if you're going to be born and you're going to be a righteous man or a wicked man. Unlike common belief in Christianity that determines you're all wicked to begin with, Judaism is not like this. That's why it's more difficult to become a Jew. Because if you are already bad, so hey, listen, I was born bad, I am bad, I'm bad to the bone, right? And let's just party. But if it's up to me, now I cannot blame anybody else. I own my decisions. I own them. If I will become righteous, it's because I chose to be. If I'm going to become, God forbid, wicked, that's all up to me. You'll become what you'll decide to do. So your situation is determined based on what you decided to connect yourself to. Now, so basically what you get from the whole entire concept here that is brought in this week's Parashat is something that I've been saying to you all the time. That the kosher diet, what we call kosher food, is a spiritual diet. As much as different athletes have different types of diets, swimmers different than track people, than football players, and so on and so forth. So is for a person who is spiritual, there's a spiritual diet for them as well, with very specific things that they can eat and very specific ways in which they could prepare it. Because, for example, I could have a nice burger, right? I don't eat burgers, but let's say I want to have a nice burger. Can I have a burger?
Yeah.
Sure. I want to have cheese. Could I have cheese? Yeah. Good. The Torah tells you, honey, it's very good. Each one by themselves is okay. The combination of both would create a spiritual blockage. So therefore, you cannot prepare your food, even if it's kosher, in that manner. You have to take certain portions from it. In Israel, you have to take terumah, masot, and so on and so forth. When you pick up the food, even picking up the food in terms of peah, v'shichicha, leket, and all the stuff like this, all a part of getting the food to maximize the spiritual ability of the food to be able to nourish not only your body, but also your soul. And we take it lightly. We take it very lightly. Now, when you now you might understand, when the Gemara said there was a Tana, he says, no, any behema, any animal, they had a question on it. It wasn't kosher 100%. So, hold on one second, let me just ask the rabbi. Rabbi, is that, you have a question here, is that kosher? Yes. Okay, good, I'm not eating that. Look at what people are doing by trying to find kulot. But when you try to find kulot on things like that, in a way you're telling me that you are not educated. In a way you're telling me that you haven't decided 100% connect yourself to the good side. There's something in you, a smidgen even, of bad implanted in you. Because you desire that. So we don't understand. We need to change our outlook. And it says on machalot asurot, unitmetem bam, you become impure by them. And it says, v'nitmetem bam, al tikri v'nitmetem, ella v'nitamtem, the Gemara says, the Gemara in Masechet Yoma, right, Yeshua, the Gemara in Masechet Yoma says the following, you're going to become what we call metumtam. Metumtam is not an imbecile. Metumtam milshon atum, sealed. You know what is going to be sealed? Is going to close those tzinorot, the pipes, the veins of your heart or your neshama. The same thing as cholesterol work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us all the indication. You're going to eat too much of certain things, your arteries are going to clog. and because they're going to clog, blood is not going to flow, chi is not going to flow with the blood, there's not going to be any chayut, any livelihood into that. Get a heart attack, you die. So ma'achalot asurot block the channels of spirituality, of ruchniyut that flows into your body. Both physical and spiritual. Both of them. So you gotta be very careful. And it says further in the Zohar, come and see, that anyone who eats ma'achalot asurot midabek batzad ha'acher. If you're eating non-kosher food, you are attaching yourself to the other side. Midabek, it means it's active. So if you still desire to eat dafka, a cheeseburger, or you desire to eat lobster, you will not eat it, you desire it, take a pause and think, what's in me that's causing me to do that? If I am doing everything right, I should be attached to sit down, Talmidei Chachamim, to Torah, to yeshivot, to something like this. Why do I desire a cheeseburger? Why do I desire to eat a marine cockroach, lobster? Tell you, turn them upside down, they look the same thing. Mm-hmm. Seriously. You know those big cockroaches like this? Upside down, they look like a lobster. Especially where there's a thing in the back. Something is wrong with me. What is it? Why do I want it? Why do people want to eat kosher fish that looks like shrimp? What's wrong with you? Somewhere along the line, maybe spiritually, you need some fine-tuning. What's wrong with you? That's what we need to ask. Says the Zohar, Umetaev nafsho vegufo. You're going to attach yourself to the other side, and you're going to come to hate your own body and your own soul. You're going to, in a way, hate the fact that you're a Jew. Veruach hatuma shora alav, and the essence of impurity dwells upon him. Umare atzmo, and you show by doing so she'ein lo chelek. He doesn't want to have a part of Hashem in him. Because we say inside each and every one of us is netzotz eloki. I don't want this, he said. I want to eat cheeseburger. Ve'eino ba min asad shelo ve'eino dabuk bo. Look at the Zohar. You cannot attach yourself to Hashem if you're eating cheeseburgers or you're eating, I don't know, whatever people eat, pepperonis, whatever it is that they eat. Now, of course, that even comes to, without a doubt, that even comes to eating non-Chalav Israel food. Why do you have to eat Haagen-Dazs, Ben and Gary, Ben and Jerry, Ben and whatever it is? It's lo Chalav Israel. Don't eat it. Don't have a desire for it. Lo rotzeh et ze. Lo bali. Why do I want it? What damage does it do to you? Oh, Rabbi, is it okay for me to give it to my kid? Why would you do this to your kid? Why would you do this to your kid? Why would you give your kid non-Chalav Israel when you can buy Chalav Israel? I mean, you can't do it without some kind of fancy yogurt. It's very simple. Something is wrong with you. I mean, a person that would deliberately, in a way, you're pulling out the carpet from your kid's ability to grow and to become a real spiritual person. And you see it, that most people who don't keep Chalav Israel, or communities, eventually they become what they call more modern. Right? And the kids, now we have problems with those kids. And then we start cutting corners. And before you know, na'asa naval b'reshut haTorah. I understand if you want to, as we said, if you want to look at all possible angles, to look at science and to include science as a part of your halachic tshuva and so on and so forth, to learn things, to understand it. Lama lo. If that's why you call modern orthodox, terrific. Lama lo. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are saying I'm modern orthodox as an excuse because I'm too embarrassed to drop everything and run away to the hills to the other side, so then nasa naval b'reshut haTorah. People that go to places that are open on Shabbat, but there is some hechsher from like a, I don't know what, I don't know, flip flop K. No. What does it do to your neshama? I'm not saying it doesn't taste good. But let me tell you, sin tastes good. But then you will regret it to the rest of your life. The rest of your life. What will happen to you if you're never going to eat chocolate chips, chocolate chips, dough, ice cream, cookie, whatever? Nothing will happen. As a matter of fact, probably going to be healthier. You're going to be fat. You're not going to have a tire on your stomach. And you're not going to be bulbal in the moch. People like that all they consume is non-Chalav Israel, they are, as far as I'm concerned, patur from drinking in Purim. Because they for sure don't know what the difference between Aru, Aman, Baruch, Mordechai, they don't know anything. See somebody guilty there.
Oh, no.
Guiltiness.
I used to be.
I used to. But Hashem. Now, okay, so let's say a person used to do that.
Okay.
If he stopped because he says, I can't do it, he stopped. He himself took the axe and he cut down the tree. That created, because of desire to come to Hashem, that creates such a movement towards Hashem, it overcomes it. That's called Tshuva Me'ava. That overcomes everything it did. Then, when you take the axe and you cut it, what are you cutting? Remember the Matrix, those things that used to suck the people's life like this, the embryos? When you cut that pipe that connects you, in one side it feeds you, gives you all those pleasures, in the other side it takes your life with it, your neshama out of you. If you cut it with your own hands, at that moment, you are granted with siyata deshemaya, with a heavenly help. Shene'emar, because it says, Haba li'itaer, mesayim b'yado. Mishamayim, from the heavens, they're going to help you in everything you do, because you want to purify yourself. So even if you ate it, but you do it, it says, this is wrong, I don't want to do it, I cut it. And there could be, let's say, in front of you, the best non-Chalav Israel, pizza with fake pepperoni, with umbrellas on it. Not eating it. I don't have any desire. Man, you used to eat a whole pizza yourself. I don't know, I don't have any desire. Not Chalav Israel, I'm not eating it. Plain simple. No, oh man, I wish. No, nothing. It's you. So if you want a siyata deshemaya, seek to purify yourself. It's very simple. Very simple. So, and the Mekubalim tell us that the nature of our body is to really desire, and especially desire chet. Usually we desire what is not allowed to us. Why? Because the body is cursed. That's why we need to operate above the body, to do things above our body. We need to reach a state in which there's going to, what the Mekubalim call Hashra'at Shechina ala guf, that you even sanctify your body. But not with fasting and punishments and alternate fasting and then it's like alternate side of the street. We're not talking about this. We're talking about being careful with what you eat and what you put into your mouth. Kadesh atzmecha b'mutar lecha. Your kedusha comes because you take extra care, not with what you're not allowed, but with what I'm allowed to. I'm going to do the mehadrin. I'm going to go to the extreme. I would rather, I don't eat meat, but I would rather eat meat once a week and make sure it's super glad kosher, no questions asked, than to eat everyday meat and to be like borderline. We got it all wrong. We got it all wrong. So now, and we really need to purify our body to be pure. That its chayut, its livelihood, only going to come from kosher food. And that becomes my fuel that allows me to connect myself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. However, it's not just the food itself. I also need the makshava. I need the dibur and I need the asiyah. I need to think about it, I need to talk about it, and I need to do something about it. And the makshava has to be the thought has to be that we eat so we can have koach to serve Hashem, and it has to be a certain kavanah in the achila itself, and the dibur, when we talk, is the bracha that we make, and the maaseh is etzem achila. Even in the way you eat, there's a certain way that especially a ben Torah should be eating. You can't finish a bagel with 2 1/4 bites. You can't stuff your cheek like this, eating like that. It's not a derech for a ben Torah. Even a ben Torah, but in the way he eats, his nikar. In the way he drinks, his nikar. You can tell by a person how he eats. You can tell by the way I eat my food. I'm a holy man, not just a fool. Stay in a lot. Now, the Torah comes to teach us or to remind us that if you really want to reach a state in which the light, the holy light, would dwell inside the vessel, we need to have a true and continuous connection with the Ribono Shel Olam, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we need to be very, very careful with what we put in our mouth, and we need to be in total control in what we think over. What goes into our heads. And it's about time we'll take the challenge of having control over ourselves. We like to be in a state of total lack of control. But yet together with that, we like to control others to no end. Forget about controlling others, control yourself. You have plenty of work to do. And Tosfot tells us, עד שאתה מתפלל שיכנסו דברי תורה לתוך פיך, instead of praying that the words of the Torah would flow from your mouth, it says, "Itpalel shelo yikansu machalot asurot letoch me'echa." You should pray that you're not going to have non-kosher food into your gut, because that would make you spiritually challenged. So says the Ma'or Vashemesh. Who is the Ma'or Vashemesh?
Kalman, I don't know.
Halevi.
I don't know that.
Epstein. Yeah. Just like the Havdil, Shechet Ba'avitum Shana, Rabbi Epstein from Sha'ar HaTorah. His name is Kalman. He's a Levi, and his name is Epstein. He says the following, and according, Kol ma'achal v'davar gashmi, any food and anything physical, chotzetz b'fnei Adam, lival yira'eh or ha'ba'ir. When you are dragged after your desires and everything that it's, just physical without any spiritual tendencies behind it, it would close you from the light. Takes you away from the light, draw you away from the light, and you're going to make you blind to Hashem's light. Bal yira'eh or ha'ba'ir. Ulam, but במאכלים טהורים, in the kosher food, אותם התירה התורה הקדושה, in which the Torah will allow us, האוכלים, not only that they're kosher food, the people who eat them בקדושה ובטהרה, pay attention, יכול לשבור המסכים המבדילים ולחזות בנועם השם. He can break all the barriers that he had placed between him and Hashem, and he can only enjoy Hashem's glory. This is a fantastic thing. So I'm going to tell you this. You can eat Chalav Israel, kosher lemehadrin, no questions asked. And that will help you understand and see Hashem better. And you tell me that you would rather eat non-Chalav Israel? You would rather eat all these things that are borderline, not Bishul Israel? Because of your ta'ava? So your ta'ava is better than to be closer to Hashem? What's the point of our life? And it says, if you do so, you extract upon yourself the powers of impurity, עד שכמעט אין יכולת לשור את נשמתו להסיר המסכים שמוסיף במאכלים האסורים ההם. So much that you're going to be blind to God's light until it's going to be impossible, not only to you, also to the root of your soul, to be able to identify and to enjoy Hashem's light. Why would you like to cut corners? I mean, look at the I'm sorry to sound vulgar or repulsive, but it doesn't make a difference what you eat. You could be eating, aged steak that was made by, I have no idea who, in the most beautiful way, with superb ingredients, with wine that is 50 years old, and whiskey that is 100 years old, and the whole ganze Meise. The other guy can eat a sandwich with sardines. I don't care what you say, they all come out the same way. The same thing. They all come up more delicate, if you know what I mean. It's all an illusion. So let me eat something that's nutrients for me. Something that's good for me. I'm not saying you have to eat food that you can enjoy it. Like put, 2 pounds of salt on your food. It was given you to enjoy. But also with that, eat what is right for you. If you are on a mission to get closer to Hashem. Everything is revealed to us. But we choose to close our eyes. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us hints in everything we do to be able to get closer to Him. We just choose to ignore it. We made ourselves blind for that. I mean, what would be better for me to eat? A banana, which is a perfection, or a big fat Napoleon cake with that's made out of real whipped cream with like 35,000% fat on it. Just thinking about it, I'm getting a stomachache, with sugar on top and made by some, toothless French chef, Of course, take a banana, it's perfect. I don't care how good you are, you cannot make me a banana. Any orangutan can make you Napoleon cake. But nobody can make a banana. Take a banana, it's better for you. Look at what we're doing. So that's why it says, and the Netivot Shalom on this parasha says, Yadua shekol matarat ha'avodah shel ha'yehudi, the whole purpose of a Jew is ubo tidbak, and you should attach yourself to Hashem. Dvikut bavorei, he says, and it says in the Sifri, v'chi ifshar lidabek b'shchina. How could I attach myself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I'm a man, I'm a person, I'm nothing. How can I attach myself to Hashem? Says the Sifri, Ela hidabek b'chachamim v'talmidehem. Attach yourself to the chachamim, to the rabbis and their students, the talmidei chachamim, and by doing so, because they learn all the time, and since they learn all the time, Shekhinah is there, so attach yourself to them, and you'll be attached to the Shekhinah. In other words, you cannot be holy if you don't learn. You could be smart, you could be a Supreme Court judge. Holy you won't be. Holy you'll be if you sit here all day long. You could sit here all day long, even if you are not so bright. Needless to say, Madeline not so bright. She was just niftar. She was a Jew. Right? You could have an IQ of 100 all day long in yeshiva. You'll be medabek b'shchina because you medabek to Talmidei Chachamim. You could have an IQ of 180, Supreme Court judge, 7,000 years sitting there on a throne, and you could be as tameh as a pig. We got it all wrong. Got it all wrong. So, and we know, okay, we'll finish. We know that anything that needs to have tikkun, anything in the olam tikkun, the Kabbalah tells us, has to be in a form of a line, of a straight line. And all the way to the ends of to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And all the tikkun has to be on a straight line. What is the straight path that the person will take? And that is the way to take it to Hashem. And then we need to know. We need to understand that. So pay attention to your food. I'm going to make it short because I have still a whole entire page here. But we need to daven arvit. But before we do that, actually, I'm going to tell you the following. We need to pay very attention to what we put in our mouths. Better if you eat less and eat with a better hechsher. Make sure you come to learn every day. And make sure you don't just learn by yourself. You're coming to Bet HaMidrash, because if you learn by yourself, it's not good. You need somebody else. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to fail. You're going to make the light go away from you. You're not going to hear Musa. And then it says, the Mekubalim tells us, it says that we know that in nature, there's two forces. There's light and there is darkness. And there is Lemala Me'ateva and there's Or, right? And there's no darkness over there. And above there, in the spiritual world, there's only light. There's no darkness. By the way, that's the reason also it calls Parashat Shemini to represent to us that everything that is 8 is above nature. Everything 8 is... So this parasha, it seems that it's like all technical about food, about this, about that. But it's all about your spiritual maintenance. So it says, Bayom HaShmini, it says, in the 8th day, it's going to be that even darkness is going to turn into light. And why? Because it says in Zechariah chapter
70.
14, verse
2.
6. V'aya bayom hahu, and there will be in that day, lo yeh or yekarot v'kipaon. There's not going to be darkness, right? It's going to be a splendor of light, something amazing. Not day and no night. In other words, yeh yekarot. It's going to be a bright day. Bright light is going to be clear to all. Kipaon, staying still, is a very hard situation. You're not moving. You're frozen. That's why you always need to be like the chayot in Shamayim. The always ratzim, ve'ba'im, ve'olchim. There's always movement in front of Hashem. Here too, you always have to move. You have to do something. You're allowed to sleep. Nobody tells you not to sleep. You're allowed to sleep. But when you're not, al tiyeh batlan. Don't tiyeh batala. Always have to do something, learn something, fix something, clean something, always movement. And it says people would not know what the day will bring to them. And that will be the day, exactly a day before the Geulah, before redemption, and in the moment of Geulah, people would not know, is or Yom Yekarot or Yom Kippur? Is that light of splendor, or tremendous spiritual light, or it's like a freezing light that everybody would freeze? People would not be able to know. And it says, and they would, and then they would realize that they have to have a tremendous Yeshua, and then it's going to be a great light. And all of a sudden, as they say, "V'yeh yom echad hu yivada leHashem lo yom velo laila v'ya le'et erev yeh or." And then it's going to be, and then one day, and it will be, everybody would know about Hashem. It's not going to be day, and it's not going to be night, and towards, nighttime, there's going to be light. It's in Zechariah chapter
14.
Very nice. Verse
26.
7.
Let's go for it.
So at the beginning, people would not know if it's day or night, and at the end, they're going to know that it's a whole entire day, and there's not going to be mitziut, there's not going to be a reality of day and night anymore. I guess we're working close towards it in terms of having all the time Shaon Kais, and and then day and night. So you should know that day and night is not just a matter of time; it's also a matter that each one in every human being has a day and night in their nefesh, in their soul. There are good things, there are good b'sorot tovot, shmuot tovot, dvarim tovim. That's a day for us. And things that are hurt and misery and so on and so forth, it's like darkness. It's night. Le'atid lavo, into the future, the time of redemption, it's only going to be light. It's going to be a new day. New day. It is, right? Like Bob Marley, new day, right? And it's going to be a reality that was not in creation since the first day when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created that heavenly light. And in our reality, what night does a separation between one day to the other. Separates the light. Right? And And the power of the day is when it's continuous. It's going to be continuous all the time, and that's going to be only La'atid Labo. And when it's going to be? B'Yom HaShemini. And that's Yom HaShemini is the day when the Shekhinah, it's called Hashrat Shekhinah, where Shekhinah comes and dwells in a constant manner in that. And that's the reason why we do Brit on one of the reasons that we do Brit on the 8th day. Yes, there's medical terms that Torah says and so on and so forth. But to represent to us that the Hashrat Shekhinah should be present on the Jew all the time. But the kid does not know. That's why the father's obligation is to teach them, so he would continue be able to draw the Shekhinah on him all the time. And that's to the spiritual day. So the 8th day of Milah, of Brit Milah, is corresponding to the day of redemption of Am Yisrael, of the whole entire world, and all together. And the Shekhinah is not something that is one time here, one time. It has to be continuous all the time. That's why in order to be something to be continuous, it has to be whole, in wholeness. It has to be complete. And a person needs to reach or to work in his life to a level that he needs to be like the 8th day. That he's complete, that he's making himself into a vessel, that there's no hiding, there's no darkness, there's no shadows, there's only light. And you need a pure heart and a pure neshama to desire to reach to that state. If you want to know how to do it, examine every action that you do. You're about to do something. Now, it doesn't make a difference if it's going to school or not going to school, going to whatever it is that you're about to do. Is this going to make you closer to Hashem, or is going to make Hashem hidden for a moment? You should know Hashem never hides himself from us. We are the one who hide Hashem from us. Hashem is always revealed to us. Always. The hastara, the barrier comes from us. We are the one. And since we put it on, we need to remove it. So don't take your kashrut lightly. Don't take your Torah learning lightly. If you want to be redeemed, if you want to be saved. Have a beautiful Shabbat.